Hello, everyone, and welcome to week 2 of my fantasy football season. As you can see here, this week did not go as well as week 1. We only managed to put up a whopping 152 points up against Bobby Light's 170. So we did lose this week by 18 points, putting us at 1-1 on the season. That being said, this is by far the soonest or earliest I have ever lost in fantasy football. Like being at week 2 only and I already have a loss, this is uncommon and rare. But that being said, we can only go up from here since 152 is a rather pathetic outing, and things can only go up. We did manage to score the least amount of points in the league this week, which is not somewhere we want to be for sure. And most of my players underperformed this week, as you could probably tell. I did score 40 points lower than my projection, which was 199. So with that being said, we will get into my players' scoring for this week. Now, you know it's going to be a bad week for your team when even Peyton Manning, underperforms. Although he only underperformed by 4 points, Peyton only scored 24 points against a projected 28 points. And Peyton is supposed to be one of the key factors in my matchups this year. And he was not able to even... He barely, by less than 1 point, outscored Nick Foles this week. Less than 1 point he outscored Nick Foles by. Nick Foles had more passing yards than Peyton Manning this week. Wow. That's all I have to say about that. So, when you have that, Peyton underperforming, you know it's going to be a bad week for your team. Now, to go on to my next player, Victor Cruz. Victor Cruz, actually, he underperformed, but he showed some spots of greatness a little bit. He did better, that doesn't make sense. He did tons better than he did in week 1 when I think he only scored like 4. He did get 11 this week, so 11 with 5 receptions for 60 yards. So that is definitely something to look on a positive note. If we're going to take any positive notes away from this week, Victor Cruz was actually a part of the Giants' offense this week. So that could be good, which is a lot better than what he got last week. So I will take... Well, I won't really take it, but his improvement is something to look forward to. So, like, if he keeps on improving, I can keep him in my starting lineup. But if he were to go back down, I would probably try to trade him. I wouldn't just like drop him and take him out of my starting lineup. I would probably try to trade him for something. Now, going to my running backs. Marshawn Lynch underperformed this week by 5 points. He got 19. Did not have a rushing touchdown and only had 36 rushing yards. Now, I don't know what happened in that game. I wasn't able to watch the game, so I don't know. Okay, well, he only had 6 rushing attempts, so that's probably why he only had 36 yards. Seattle needs to start running the ball more. I hope this isn't going to become a theme for them where they're not going to run the ball that much, like with Adrian Peterson last year, which screwed me over. But anyway, Marshawn Lynch, 6 rushes, 36 yards, 4 receptions. I don't know how many yards. 4 receptions for 27 yards and a receiving touchdown brought him to 19 points. Zach Stacy, one of the players on my team that actually scored over his projected total, had 20. I believe he was the second leading scorer on my team, if not third. He rushed the Rams rushed the ball a lot. 19 rushing attempts, 71 yards, and a touchdown. Don't know if he had any catches. Let me check that out real quick. No, but he did fumble the ball once, so his score would have been 2 points higher if he didn't do that. So that may be something to look out for in the future. If he's going to be fumbling the ball, I may have to put Frank Gore in. Zach Ertz, another one of the members on my team that actually scored their projected total, over their projected total, got me 12 points with 86 yards on 4 receptions, which is pretty much what I do expect from Zach Ertz. Anywhere between like 10 and 15 points from Zach Ertz on any given week is basically about what I expect. With like maybe some touchdown upside because he's a humongous target in the red zone. So there is that. Sweejum got me 7 points. He was the only player on the Steelers that was able to score this week. I'm not going to get into the Steelers-Ravens game because that's just going to make me frustrated. Kansas City's defense was only able to get me 9 points this week. I wasn't expecting a big week out of them anyway. Facing Denver, I would rather the points go to Peyton than my defense. Steelers defense again was pathetic in the second half, and I'm not going to talk about that game because I am going to get pissed off about it. So we're just going to leave it at that for the Steelers. Jared Mayo, after last week's dominating performance of like 700 tackles, this week he only had like 5 tackles and got me 12 points. Dansby had a big week for me this week. Dansby was my second leading scorer, which I don't know. Is that a good or bad thing that I have a defensive player scoring my second most points? Probably is a bad thing. But he did score 23, which is a lot for an individual defensive player. He was a monster. 8 tackles alone for tackles assisted and a sack. And then we had Mr. Brandon Spikes, who probably would have been better off just not playing at all because he only got 1 point. We're gonna go ahead and take a look and see this week, as I will in the weeks coming up, and didn't do last week. Look at how my bench did. Jay Cutler scored 29 points. Do I feel bad for starting Peyton Manning over Jay Cutler? No. Jay Cutler is on my team for Peyton Manning's bye week and Peyton Manning's bye week only. I will never start Jay Cutler over Peyton Manning. If, in the rare case, Jay Cutler does ever again score more than Peyton Manning, oh well, because he is my bench quarterback, unless Peyton gets injured. Frank Gore scored 22 points, which was more than both of my running backs. So he might be getting in there soon. But Frank Gore is very reliant on scoring touchdowns, and I don't really see him scoring that many touchdowns this year with Carlos Hyde on that roster. Terrence Williams only scored 4 points, so that's not really too big of a deal, even though he did outscore the 2.9 ends of the 2 from Deshaun Jackson and Torrey Smith. Fred Jackson, I really only have on my team because my 2 starting running backs have the same bye week. He got 13. Riley Cooper only had 1. I don't even know why Riley Cooper is on my team. Danny Woodhead scored 14. Don't know why I have him on my team either. And DeMarcus Ware only scored 3. So that's only 2 points higher than Brandon Spikes. So my bench, with the exceptions of Jay Cutler and Frank Gore, did not do that much this week either. So, with that being said, following week 2, we are 1-1. And for week 3, probably going to be changing my starting lineup in some facet. If not, I do have like 17 million bye weeks in week 4. Yes, like half of my starting team has a bye in week 4. So there would definitely be roster changes made in week 4. That may stay permanent. We'll see how... Maybe we'll see how one more week it goes with this roster. Because so far this NFL season has been extremely unpredictable and just crazy. We have teams like the Bills are doing well. The Bills are 2-0. The Bills were 2-0 last year too. But just saying. We will go to the league. I'm curious what place I'm in. I might be close to last. We are in 7th place, which is no good. No good at all. Let's go to my team. Let's see. We're going to look at my totals for this team and scoring. So far, Victor Cruz has 15 points. He got 11 of them this week, so he had 4 in week 1. Deshaun Jackson had 16. He was the opposite. He only had 2 this week, so he had 14 in week 1. Torrey Smith has 10, so he had 2 this week, so he had 8 last week. Marshawn Lynch at 54 is solid. Zach Stacy at 32 isn't terrible. Zach Ertz at 29 is good for a tight end. Going to my bench, Jay Cutler is at 53. He's a good bench quarterback to have. Jay Cutler has more points than Peyton this season, which is actually quite surprising through 2 weeks. Frank Gore is at a solid 36 points. He may be potential for trade bait after week 4, because week 4 is when Beast Mode and Zach Stacy both have their buys. Terrence Williams is at 19, which is right now the highest out of all of my receivers. So he may very soon be inserted into my starting lineup. Fred Jackson is at 27. I basically have him on my team as the other backup for week 4 when both of my starting running backs have their buys. Riley Cooper, basically have on my team also to fill bye weeks. He's at 8. Have him, basically I drafted him because last year he was a big red zone target and had a couple big weeks, so hopefully he can do that for me when I have to put him in there. And finally, Danny Woodhead. I basically have him on my team because I had another draft pick left. Now going to my kicker. Sweejum is at 20 points in the first 2 weeks, which is pretty solid. My two defenses are not doing too bad thus far, the beginning of the season. My individual defensive players, we have Jared Mayo, who was more beastly in week 1 than he was in week 2. Carlos Dansby, who was more beastly in week 2 than he was in week 1. And Brandon Spikes, who scored 12 of his 13 points in week 1 and only 1 last week. And also, I have DeMarcus Ware on my bench for my defensive players to fill in for each of their bye weeks. Now, with that being said, this season is not really off to too good of a start right now at 1-1 in 7th place out of 10 teams. I must reiterate the fact that do not like being near the bottom of leagues at all. Albeit early in the season, I do not like being down there. So we can definitely be expecting changes in the very near future to this team, because especially with these receivers, we're not happy with these receivers at all. What do we have here between my 3 receivers? 41 points between 3? That's terrible. That's a little bit more than 10 a week. It's just not good. I expected them to be bad, but not this bad. And hopefully we can do better next week. We are projected to win by 20 next week against Royals, who is 2-0 and in 2nd place. So we are expected to get that win next week. Hopefully we can pull that one out and get to 2-1, because 1-2 would be a terrible place to be in. And I think that's about all I have to say for today. So until next time, good luck, have fun, and be safe.